Thank you, thank you. So, I'm going to start with a very personal story, personal journey today, that basically spans over about 10 years, that saw me go from being a very miserable, very depressed factory worker, driving a forklift truck around a warehouse, to directing 2 feature films in Hollywood. It's quite a journey, so strap in, because we're going to have to go through about 10 years in like 15 minutes. But I say 10 years, really it began when I was a child. I was this kind of Walter Mitty child, and I just had this wild imagination. I was always coming up with these scenarios, and my education was kind of Predator and Die Hard and Back to the Future. I wanted to be Marty McFly really, really badly. That was what I wanted to be in life. And so this started to become way too much for my mind to keep all of this in there, and I needed an outlet. I needed to do something. And I didn't really understand film at that time. I didn't really understand picking up a camera and editing and all of that sort of business. But I loved movies, and I hated school. But I loved movies. And that's all I did. I just watched films. And so when I got into my mid-teens, I started to write. I just picked up a pen and a paper, and I started to write. And I wrote. And I wrote. You can see where this is going, right? And I wrote, and I wrote. I did keep writing. And I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote. That was in the space of 12 months. Damn iPhones, they're so good. Look, there's my dog hair. My dog's hair got trapped in the binder. It gets everywhere. So I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And I remember it was when I was supposed to be revising for my GCSEs, and I would be sat at my table, hand would be working away, and my mum would come up and bring me a cup of tea. He's hard at that revision stuff. He's really revising quite hard. There you go, son. Good to see you hard at work. Then the GCSE results came in. They spelled fug for buddy, F-U-G-F-B-D-E. A B in creative writing, obviously, and that was it. So that was it, right? And it was interesting. No one really read them. No one really saw them. Mum read them. Sister sort of read them. But that's it, right? Mum's your best critic, so that was it. And she, gave me good feedback, as mums would. But I was 15, right? They weren't that good. But it was nice to get it out. It was nice to get it out there. But after a short period of time, the words weren't enough. Loving films and the visual so much, I had to make films. So I had to sort of transition into that. And I picked up a camera and I started making some short films in my spare time while I was working a horrible job in a factory driving a forklift truck. And I started to fall into depression. I could see myself making Hollywood movies on the big stage, right? But my reality was very bleak. I was in Coventry and I was working for no money, and I had a mortgage, and I hated my job and I hated life, and there just needs to be more to life than the bleak reality that I was living at that time. It was really dark. And the short films were okay, but they weren't brilliant. I was sort of in my 20s and kind of shooting these films in my spare time, and they were all right. When I look back on them now, I was sending them out, trying to get an agent. I can kind of see why. I had a lot to learn, but they were okay. So 10 years ago, I went in and out. It's 10 years this year of this really dark depression. It was pretty bleak, and I decided I needed to make a real good go of it. I needed to get out of the factory. I needed to stop living this life, and I came up with 3 prime directives. It's like RoboCop. Can't get away from movies, you see. They weren't uphold the law. They weren't whatever his other 2. I can't remember what RoboCop's prime directives were. The first one was to be self-sustainable and make a living from camera and editing. Get out of the factory. Get on with it. The second one was make a living from writing and directing feature films. Third one was make a living from writing and directing feature films in Hollywood. So I made a real go of it. Long story short, because this is 10 years, and I've got, 10 minutes. Pulled off number one, camera and editing. So I was self-sustainable from about 2008. Took me 2 years to get there, and then have been up until recently. And I continued to make short films. And when I came out of that depression, I thought, I'm going to make a film that is really commercially viable. I'm going to try and get a producer. So I made Snowman. And Snowman was a short film that was based on a feature film. And it was a proof of concept. And the proof of concept is you shoot some of the feature film or to give a producer a taste of the feature. So I had the words and I shot the short film. Say that quickly 3 times. And I managed to get a producer farm in. And being in Coventry, and not being in London, and not being in LA, I wasn't around it. My first bit of advice to filmmakers is be around it, be around other filmmakers, go and hang out on film sets. I wasn't doing that, which is why it was taking me quite a long time. Love Coventry that much, just love it here. I couldn't get out of it. So I made Snowman. I got this producer called Jonathan Sothcott, who's an independent producer, an independent producer in the UK. And he really liked Snowman. He loved my writing style. He was like the first person who had ever read anything I'd written that was, that could get made. And that was Snowman. He loved it, but he was looking for a vehicle for an actor who was at a low point in his career. His name was Danny Dyer. And I was always a fan of Danny. Loved Danny. Was never a hater, although there are lots of those, unnecessarily. He's a beautiful man. Really good friend, and one of the funniest people you'll ever meet. He's lovely. And he decided that he liked some of what was in Snowman, but he wanted to make it into, something that could be, for Danny. So we went away, we worked on some ideas, and Vendetta came out at the end of 2013. It was my first feature film. It's always nice to see my name. I was going to just blow that bit. And it came out, did really well. It was the biggest non-theatrical in the UK of that year. And everyone was like, you've relaunched Danny Dyer's career. Your phone's going to be ringing off the hook. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have a manager at that point. You're going to get an agent. You're going to get a manager. Yeah, it's all going to kick off. You saved Danny. Danny's back in EastEnders. Well done. 3 months after Vendetta, there's me on the set. Having good times with Mr. Danny Dyer. So it was a great shoot. It's me and the wife. The wife's really enjoying this kind of last 18 months. It's kind of moved very quickly. She's in there somewhere. I saw her sneak in. So 3 months after Vendetta, nothing happened. The phone didn't ring. And that was me. I went back to work doing my cameraman and editing jobs at Catterick Garrison at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was sleeping on the floor with the Sterling Airsoft lads. They're a company, like a military-based company that I do a lot of work with, run around with them with a camera, film all their events, and you have to film it. So do you know what? I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do now? This was meant to be it, man. This was going to be where I was going to break through and be the next Michael Bay. And that was the reality. How I didn't regress back into depression is beyond me. And so I thought, maybe I need to manage my expectations. Maybe I need to think smaller, all right? So that was my next trip. I can't swear, but I thought, bleep this. I'm going to Hollywood. I tried to get in touch with lots of production companies in the UK after Vendetta. Let them know I was here. To no avail. Still couldn't get an agent, still couldn't get a manager. Even though Vendetta, although not the best film in the world, it should have been a really good calling card for me. Nothing, just nothing. I came back to Coventry like it didn't happen. So I thought, I always wanted to be that guy that just got on a plane, like those characters, the fairy tale, still in that Walter Mitty mindset. I want to get on a plane, I'm just going to go to LA. But what always deterred me from doing that was that I don't know anyone. I'm terrible at networking. You all probably know more people in the film industry than me. I'm just terrible at it. I know how to do the work, but that's it, right? I don't go to these bars and, network. I'm terrible at it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go to LA, get off the plane. I'm here. People kept saying, go to LA. You just need to go to LA, Steve. Your films are a little bit more commercially viable. They're a bit more of an American style. All right, get off the plane. I'm in LA. What am I doing? Where am I going? So I managed to get a couple of meetings set up. 3 meetings. And one of them was with a company called WWE Studios. And WWE were about to do a bunch of films with Lionsgate. And they'd seen Vendetta, and they liked the way I stretched the dollar. You know, I can make a movie for, not a lot of money and make it look a little bit more expensive. Producer's dream. So went into their offices and just had a very sort of familiar 20-minute meeting with their head of development, awesome guy, Richie Lowell. And that was it, really. Did another few of the bits and bobs out there in LA, got on a plane, came home. Didn't know if it was a success, but I'd done it. It was on a bucket list. I'm a believer that one day you're going to be on your deathbed, and one day you may have time to reflect on your life. There's going to be so many things you wish you'd done. Imagine being on a deathbed and going, I should have done that. I should have done that. I should have done that. Oh, no. I can't think of anything worse. So I've got to tick off the bucket list, and one of them was to get on a plane and just go to LA, see what happens. So I did, and a 20-minute meeting, came home. That was in June 2014, and then 2 weeks later, the phone rang. It was the head of WWE Studios, Michael Luisi. He said, so you met with our head of development? Yeah. We like Vendetta. We've got this project. Have a look at it, see what you think. All right. You don't want me to write it? No. I love writing, obviously. Okay, I'll direct it. Yeah, we like your visual style. Tell us what you do with it. All right, so I looked at the screenplay. That's me going to LA. Look how big that face is. The only reason I put that picture in there was to see how big my face could actually get. It's quite scary, isn't it? That's me at 37,000 feet pretending not to be scared of flying on that trip to LA. I hate flying. Me and my wife calculated I did 15 long-haul flights in the last 18 months. I still hate flying. So there's me out in LA. 12 Round 3 Lockdown was the screenplay that WWE Studios gave me. And that was in June. In August, I was on a plane on the way back to Vancouver to shoot this movie with Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose is kind of one of the bigger names in the WWE at the moment. So WWE Studios, for those of you who don't know, they sort of take their wrestlers and they put them as the lead in a movie and then make the movie around them. It's really cool, action movies. So there we were on set. My wife was flown over to Vancouver. That's not my wife. That's my wife. And hung out on set, and it was, it's brilliant. It was a great experience. The great thing about that is that after lockdown, they asked me to do another one. And so in October, I came back, 2014. And then January 2015, I was back on a plane going out to shoot movie number 2. And that was Interrogation. And so that brings us kind of up to date. And that's where we are, and that's where Stephen Reynolds is at the moment. The thing that I took away from that was that in this industry, it's always about being in the right place at the right time. That's what they always tell you. But you have to put yourself in that place. Like, you really have to put yourself in that place. It's not going to happen sitting at home in the bedroom. You're not going to get lucky. There is an element of luck that they say that's involved. I have never had any luck. I've never been lucky. So all of this has been chasing producers, of the few producers I know, and basically hounding them to watch. I had to hound Jonathan Soscott to watch Snowman, and then eventually get back to me. I've never had a chance meeting with anybody. It's all come from hard work, and for that reason, I am massively, proud of where I've got to. So if there's anything you can take away from that, and if you are in an industry where you do have to be in the right place at the right time, just make sure that you're there. Otherwise, you're going to miss the opportunity. I am Stephen Reynolds, and thank you very much for your time.